Hello.
Hello.
Facebook Live. Look who we've got on the Friday Facebook Live. Hannah Weinhold's back in the house. Hi, Hannah Weinhold. How are you?
Hi there.
I'm Hannah Weinhold's sister. What I've spent my entire life being called. Simon Dalley is having problems, so we're going to get very big close-ups of his Neanderthal forehead today. Anyway, we're here today to talk about analytics. Yeah, I know. I actually love analytics.
I do really,
but yeah, Google Analytics, Google Search Console. People are always saying, like, they get a website, they put it live, and then they don't know who's on it. They don't know who's looking at it. They don't know how well it's working. And it's pretty much step one of anything that you're going to do with your website afterwards. You've got to understand who is on it, who is using it, where you're ranking, which bits of it are working, which bits of it aren't. And the vast majority of the software that helps you figure all of these things out is completely free. So according to Google, 55% of all websites that are live at the moment on Big Tinterweb have got Google Analytics installed on them.
What?
Yeah. Crackers, isn't it? But by the same token, 45% haven't. So what are those other 45% of people doing? How are they checking the websites? Yeah. That is shocking, isn't it? Yes, we like to start with a shocking statistic. So that's it. That's what we're talking about today. Google Analytics, Google Search Console, other ones as well, RFs, SEMrush, SE Ranking, which is one of our personal favorites. How do you use them? What do they do? What do they tell you? More importantly, what don't they tell you?
You call it RFs. I call it Ahrefs.
You know what? This was one of the questions I was going to pose. I've always called it RFs because it is spelled AHREFS. But people who have been around from the beginning always call it Ahrefs. Oh, we've lost Hannah. There we go.
Well, if you think about how it's coded, the A tag, there's a space between the A and the Hrefs anyway.
Yeah, I know. I would be interesting to speak to somebody from RFs, Ahrefs, and see what they call it, wouldn't it? So we'll anyway. Let's come on.
I know somebody there actually.
What?
Well, I know somebody there. She wrote a blog for Growtraffic.
No, yeah, we had a guest blog from the content marketing manager at RFs, Ahrefs. Wrote a blog.
Rachel.
We did. We wrote one for them. Yeah, we did. Anyway,
they asked us first, though.
But yes, yeah. Kudos to us.
Yeah.
Hannah Weinhold, who are you?
I'm Hannah Weinhold. I'm a director at Growtraffic, an all-round superstar.
Simon Dalley, who are you?
I am Simon Dalley, and I'm also a director at Growtraffic. Questionable whether I'm a superstar.
Well, highly questionable.
Highly questionable. Definitely a genius, though.
Yes, and I'm Rachel. I'm stuck in the middle of these two. This is my punishment for life. Anyway, right, first question I have for you both. Who loves analytics?
Hannah loves analytics. Is it true?
This guy. Why do you love it, Hannah? Why do you love analytics?
Because there's almost nothing it can't tell you about your website and the people that use it. And what it can't tell you, you probably don't particularly want to know. Oh, no, it doesn't tell you rankings so nicely, does it? Okay, there's an awful lot of things it will tell you. It's just an absolute wealth of data, and who doesn't love data?
Absolutely. Simon Dalley, why do you love analytics?
I love analytics because I can use it to make the data tell me anything about what's happening on a website.
Yeah, I spend quite a lot of my time auditing websites for our clients, and obviously, you know, Google Analytics and all the other analytics software are pretty fundamental to being able to do that. And Hannah's absolutely right. There is very little that you can't work out about your website. That, you know, it doesn't always tell you the why, but if you know what you're doing, you can work out the why. But all of that data that it gives you is so useful and so valuable and so important to know. And as I said at the beginning, you can't move forward in your marketing strategies and your digital marketing plans if you don't know where you are to begin with. And most website platforms, so, WordPress, Wix, whatever your website is built in, most of them will have some sort of basic inbuilt analytics system that will tell you how many people have read a certain blog post or whatever. But the information that they give you is, postage stamp sized compared to the data that you can actually access about your website. And as we have said, most of it is already free.
What I love about it though as well is that you can just look at like really high level stuff. Like if you just want to know how many people are going on your website, that's all you need to see. You don't need to dig to get to it. But then if you want to dig down, you can dig down to like the absolute nth degree on most of the parameters. You can go as deep as you want, and at every level it's easy to understand. So it's suitable for just like an entrepreneur, sole trader who wants to know how many people have visited their checkout page, and it's suitable for technical SEO agents that want to really analyze the site and how it's being used.
Absolutely, and it's free. This is what is
you
so
pay with your data, don't you?
We're talking about Google Analytics now, aren't we?
Yeah. What's Dalley?
No, we're talking about Google Analytics, aren't we? We seem to have jumped a step. We
are talking about Google Analytics at the moment. Yeah. Most of it's free. Yeah. Some of the platforms you have to pay for, and we will come on to that. So first of all, addicts, let's start with the very basics. What is Google Analytics?
It's a platform that analyzes data from your website. So it tracks who goes on it, where they go, which pages, where they're coming from, and where they are in the country. And it amalgamates that into a platform that you then interrogate.
I mean, this is the thing. I mean, we have already said, you get so much data from it. It can tell you the age of the people who are on your website, and broadly speaking, in demographic terms, it can tell you where in the country or the world they are, what language they're speaking, what browser they're using, whether or not they're coming back, how long they spend on your website, what pages they look at, which pages you are losing people at, which pages they're then following through to, the pattern that they're following. Are they coming in on a certain page and then going to your about page and then going to your contact page? Literally, everything you could ever possibly want to know, you can find out through Google Analytics. You can also set up targets so you can see what your conversions are. You're particularly keen on conversions, aren't you, Dalley?
Yeah, goals. Goals through Analytics, yeah.
And what might be a goal that you might set in Google Analytics, for example?
Anything from you'd be tracking things like sorry.
Well, your wooden leg come off.
I burnt myself with some oil yesterday and it's just burst.
Oil.
What was I going to say? Yeah, you can track any number of things. Anything from people going to a specific page. So quite often I will set up a goal on the contact us page on a website. If a website's not converting, I'll quite often set up that kind of goal on the contact page itself, so we can work out what percentage of the people going to the website are actually making it to the contact page, but then aren't going on to take an action. So using that as a goal. But then, if a website's working and you're perhaps selling something, or you've got a lead gen kind of system, you set up your goal. Would be based on people who submit to the contact form or who actually go on to make a purchase. The conversion can be any number of things. It's what you define it as. It's the kind of objective of your marketing.
I think it's important that sorry, go on, Hannah.
Well, I was going to say, and in a lot of ways, that kind of goal tracking is more insightful than some of the other data, and it's certainly a lot more useful for helping you convert your visitors. So we had a customer who their bounce rate and their user signals were horrible. People were on their website for like 10 seconds, they were bouncing off. The bounce rate was 80% plus. and no one was following through into other pages. As a whole, you'd look at this site and go, geez, it's really not working. But their goal was to have people download a brochure, and their success rate on their goal was phenomenal. So all these people that came on, they were downloading a brochure and they were leaving because they got what they wanted, and they'd given our customer what they wanted. So it did demonstrate kind of another layer of success. Obviously, there were problems with the fact that their user signals were so rotten. But in terms of what the customer was wanting, it was being delivered.
But I think we get hung up on bounce rate as well, because I think it's a bit of an old-fashioned metric now. Anyway, I don't really think it should be concentrated on. It's another thing to explore if everything else isn't working. That's what I think about it. It used to be like one of the first things that you looked at, but I don't think it's that way now. And I also think that Google, especially for a kind of organic search traffic, Google understands the intent of the people that send it to your website. So if people are looking for a factual piece of information and they're there for seconds, and they're downloading something, or the content just takes seconds to read, I'm confident that Google understands that, and it doesn't have any impact on the user signals. If anything, it might be beneficial to have a high bounce rate on those kind of queries.
And I think this is why it's really important. So two things here when we were talking about the kind of goal setting. I think a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that they have to have an e-commerce shop, or they have to have some sort of transactional thing on their website in order to do goal setting, and you don't. It can absolutely be, are people reaching the contact page? It can, you can go that kind of granular on it. But also, all of these metrics that you are given have to be taken in the round, because you're absolutely right. Somebody could land on your page and you might have a phenomenal drop-off rate from that one page, but they might have got your phone number. They might have got the information that they need. That doesn't necessarily mean that was an unsuccessful trip. And so sometimes it does take a little bit of experience, doesn't it, to be able to read those statistics in the round and not just take them as, the bounce rate's gone up this month compared to last month. It must be doing a terrible job, because it's not necessarily. I think the other thing.
Sorry, go on.
Well, I was going to say is also, you've got to bear in mind when you first start doing a campaign and you start, massively upping the traffic, then other metrics are going to suffer. The length of time the average session duration might decrease, number of pages might decrease, especially if you're driving traffic to a specific page. Metrics are going to go up and down depending on what campaign you're running, what the intent of that campaign is, what you're trying to get people to do. So there is always a little bit of knowledge required.
Yeah. And I think as well, like with algorithm updates as well, the importance of certain user signals will change, and the emphasis put on them. Like, for example, how Google's now ranking paragraphs instead of whole pages. People aren't going to read an entire page now because they're getting the information highlighted to them in yellow. So surely we'll see a change of importance from time spent on page than else.
Yeah, absolutely. And then a subsequent decrease in drop-off rate. I think it's interesting though, isn't it? Because from our point of view, from the kind of SEO point of view, we've always looked at, Google doesn't tell you what it's going to count as ranking factors. It doesn't tell you. It just says you have to have a really good website. That's all you need to do if you want to
be awesome.
Yeah, be awesome. Easy as that. Be awesome. But when you go on to Google Analytics, it presents you, the first page you land on, it presents you with session duration, returning visitors, users, pages per session, bounce rate. Those are the key metrics that it gives you right at the beginning, aren't they? So, you think, right, these are obviously the things that it cares about. These are the things that it's bothered about. These are the things we've got to focus on if we're going to be running a campaign. But you're absolutely right. Now that Google is ranking paragraphs rather than pages, that is really going to turn quite a lot of that on its head, isn't it? We're getting a little bit niche here in terms of our conversation, but it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in analytics, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think when you think about the purpose of Google, like Google's objective is to be the best search engine and to gather and farm your data, but to be the best search engine. So it wants people to find the answer and find useful information. It wants to return good websites. And how is an algorithm going to understand what a good website looks like? Well, it's by how long people are on it, whether or not they come back to it, if they find interesting information and go from page to page and stuff. But it could also be, are they on it for a really short amount of time because they've got their answer? And like Dalley says, now that I think they're understanding user intent a lot more, particularly with this latest update, I think we'll probably see the user signals, like the importance of them starting to adjust.
Absolutely. Okay.
I also don't think that the things that are available in Google Analytics when you kind of open Analytics are necessarily there to give us a steer as kind of what we should be concentrating on from an SEO perspective. I think that if you want to talk about the analytics package that does that is Search Console. You know, the things that are available in Google Analytics as standard are the things that have kind of evolved as the analytics standard over the years. So they're there because they were always there, a lot of them. And then they're not, I don't think they're always noteworthy in terms of what's going on in search.
Yeah, absolutely. They are historical, aren't they? And you know, as we've said before, that rudimentary way that the algorithms have of judging websites, judging whether or not a website is good, is evolving. But you have brought us on to my next question, Simon Dalley. So my next question is, what is Search Console? Because again, a lot of people don't understand the difference. They don't understand where they've come from. What is Search Console? Why is it different to Google Analytics? And why do people need both of them?
Search Console, so it used to be called Webmaster Tools, used to be called Google Webmaster Tools. Let's start there because I still call it Google Webmaster Tools.
Lots of people do it. You can always age somebody's experience in SEO by whether they call it Search Console or Webmaster Tools.
So, yeah, I even remember it coming out. So Webmaster Tools, I've done it straight away. Google Search Console. It's an analytics package. It tells you how your website is performing in the search. So it gives you kind of specific ranking factor. Rankings in Google. You can split it out by the different countries. You can split it out by things like image search or normal kind of everyday search. You can start to look at things like click-through rates and impressions, and you can split the data up. And this is one of the most important things about Google Search Console, is you can split the data up and look at your website, where it's ranking compared to the volume of impressions of the impressions for those queries, and then the position it's ranking at and the click-through rate. So you might say, if something's ranking at position 5, but it only has a 1% click-through rate, that might be something to focus on. You might be able to improve the meta description, and if you can get the click rate up, you'll probably be able to increase the rankings. So, but also in terms of what else does it have, it's got things like it's got all your backlinks that Google wants you to know that it recognizes. It's also the place that you get warnings from Google as well. So if anything's wrong with your website, that's where they let you know about it. What else is in there? You put your sitemap in there. So you always upload an XML sitemap to Google Search Console, which is a way of ensuring that Google finds every page on your website, or has access to every page on your website, without expecting the bot to crawl and index each page separately.
And you can request the bot to come and crawl your website from Search Console as well.
Yeah, fetch request.
Why is it important, Dalley, that people check their rankings in Search Console as opposed to just Google themselves every day?
Well, first of all, I'm not 100% sure it is important that they check the rankings every day in Search Console. However, because I don't always trust the data that's in there. But I mean, you can't check your own rankings because of all the personalization that goes on in Google's results. So you'll just end up by checking your own rankings, you'll end up making yourself appear to rank higher in your own browser.
So Google shows you what it thinks you want to see, and if you keep looking for your own website, it will very quickly work out that you want to see your own website. So every time you type in your website or your search queries, it will show you your website. So we get people all the time phone us up and say, I'm ranking #1 for all these keywords. You say, all right, how do you know? Because I Google them every day and I know I'm ranking #1. And you just say, oh my God. So the reason that it's important that you use some independent software, doesn't necessarily have to be Search Console, and you're right, you shouldn't check them every day. But the reason that you need some independent software is so that you're not getting that skewed view. You can figure out exactly where your website sits, not what Google wants to show you, basically. Okay, yeah. So what about some of the other software then? So we've got some various different.
Can you just go back to Search Console, though? The key thing is though that is your. So the difference is between Search Console and analytics is about what's happening on your website at that time. Search Console is your two-way kind of conversation with Google. So they'll tell you what they know about your website, and you tell them where you want to target in the world. You know, you tell them when you want to change the address through there. Everything about your website can be done through there.
Okay, good. That's good tip. So at the very basics, people need to get Google Analytics and they need to get Search Console, don't they?
Or just Search Console.
Okay. Okay. What before I come on to the other types of systems, actually, what does it not tell us? So Hannah, what do we not know? It gives us the data, but
it doesn't tell us what Search Console, Analytics, or both.
Both. Any of them really.
It doesn't tell us the ranking position.
Do you mind if I have a beer?
No, fuck it, go for it. It's Friday. As if you need to ask. I'm jealous I haven't got one now. It doesn't tell us the rankings for those aspirational keywords. So it'll tell us what keywords it has you ranking for. But if you wanted to rank for different keywords, it doesn't tell us who else is ranking for it, where you already are, and things like that. All right, Berta.
Berta. He's very needy today, is Berta.
Ah. So that's like if you want to start exploring a new product or add a new service or target some different keywords. Hello, mother. Then that's a problem.
I think the thing about analytics as well. So if you think about where it came from, so it started the kind of first phase of analytics started by exploring and analyzing log files. And that was great when web pages were really basic, and then after that, when images started coming on, you started having images hosted in different places, you had database servers and all the rest of it. The server-side analysis became a bit more difficult and didn't work quite as well. So the move to kind of browser-based, I'm going somewhere with this, the move to kind of browser-based technologies that we use now. And there are analytic packages out there that do a combination of both, actually. But the problem is now that cookies are dying, and Google Analytics has been for the last 15 years reliant on cookies. So a little bit of code that remains in your browser. And with everybody becoming concerned about privacy things, cookies are no longer the way that Google can record the internet, if you like, or record people's behavior on the internet. And so, and also a lot of people are actually turning off the cookies. So the data that we're seeing now is nowhere near as accurate as perhaps once it was, because lots of people are very aware that they're being tracked all the time, so they're disabling it. And that's why Google's now updating, and we're moving into, I think it's version 4 of Google Analytics, where they're moving away from cookie tracking. So to answer your question about what they can't do, well, actually, they can't give you a really they can't guarantee you 100% accurate interpretation of what's going on. We've always got to remember that it's inconsistent, the data, or we always used to say it's consistently inconsistent.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of the kind of websites that we're looking at, kind of client websites and things like that, when the GDPR thing and the cookie policy thing came in, whenever that was, almost 2 years ago now, wasn't it? You know, the traffic and everything, the statistics dropped, but we basically had, and I know this is a phrase we've all come to hate recently, but we had a new normal, and we said, all right, we were working at levels like up here, we're now working at levels down here. We have to accept that we are only seeing a subset of the or a small proportion of the data and work off that basis. But yeah, I don't want to get too bogged down into the ins and outs and code and everything of Google Analytics, because to be quite frank, it's boring for everybody else.
As my screen's frozen. Is yours? No.
No. So the other thing I think it's important that we point out is that whilst we do get an awful lot of data from Google Analytics, it doesn't always tell us the why either. So it'll tell us, for example, and we have pretty much already said this, but it will tell us that our bounce rate has dropped, but it won't necessarily tell us why. Oh, he's gone, what a shame. Oh God,
you're mean.
But yeah, it doesn't necessarily tell us why bounce rate will have dropped. It doesn't necessarily tell us why traffic will have dropped. It doesn't necessarily tell us, say, if lots of people are dropping off a page on a certain point of the website, it won't tell us why. And so what we have to do then is a little bit of kind of conversion rate optimization, have a bit of a play with it, see if maybe it needs another call to action in there, that sort of thing. So sometimes, again, it's about, you know, the raw data in itself, whilst there's a lot of it and it can be really useful, it sometimes takes a bit of interpretation, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we've mentioned, you know, what it does in its barest form. How can that, on a really practical level, help business owners?
I don't know how you would run a business. Like, you wouldn't run a business if you had a traditional shop, for example, without knowing what your profit margins are, how many people are likely to come through the door, how much you need to sell. You know, you've got to get your numbers in line before you can start making decisions about your business and how viable it is. And it's the same online. You need to know, as a business owner, how many people are coming to your website, what they're doing when they're on there. Is your website absolutely dire and everyone's dropping off? Or is it working really well, but everyone's abandoning cart? Or are people not able to find their way through your website? Like, you need to know, just like you would if it was a physical presence or for. You need to know what people are doing when they get on your website and how they're coming to you.
Yeah,
it's essential. And so when you've got that information, you know where to improve and where to invest your marketing budget, or just invest your time if you haven't got a marketing budget. So, for example, if you know that you're doing 5 social media posts a day and you're getting absolutely no traffic from social media, no one's converting, but you're spending loads of money and time on it, then you know, you need to know how effective that is. Then you can make a change to your strategy and do something more efficient.
Absolutely. And I mean, in terms of we go through this when we do our better blogging course as well, but you know, it can tell you what blog posts people are reading, where they're coming from, how long they're staying there, you know, are they engaged afterwards? So that can help you shape your content strategy. As you've said, you can get the same statistics for your social media, so that can help you shape your social media strategy. Everything you can even track, it'll even track if people are coming in from emails, from PPC, from paid social. So, you know, if you are doing any kind of digital marketing, which you should be, you know, analytics is just the basics, isn't it? To understand how well is any of that working and what impact is it having and where we're going to put the money going forwards.
Do you know what the most visited or most read blog is at the moment on Growtraffic?
Go on.
It's the One Night Stands blog.
Oh, yeah, we're ranking for One Night Stands.
I don't think they're looking for fonts.
Well, we can have a whole different conversation about traffic that isn't intended, can't we? From one of our clients.
Well, yeah. Well, were you just going to tell the story about Fennel?
Yes.
Go on.
No, you do it. It's all right. Go on.
One of our clients was getting loads of traffic, and they made doorknobs, and it turns out that like 50% of their traffic was coming from a Czech porn, like people looking for a Czech porn site.
Yeah.
And what were they looking for? Like Czech?
So they had a page called Czech Republic Hub or something.
Or something.
Yeah, and there was a porn site that was similar, so they got a third of their traffic from that. But we used that traffic that they were getting. Yeah, all right, the bounce rate was up, and that they weren't engaged when they got there. But because they were getting a lot of traffic, we managed to get them ranking for some other things. So again, it's all about the context in which these statistics and this data is happening, isn't it?
Did you get them ranking better for knobs, Rachel?
Yes. Yes,
we rank for Growtraffic ranks for a few interesting terms as well. So we rank for a few old clients. We rank for slimming pills. We regularly get traffic for slimming pills. One of our old clients, Little Black Dress, there's a case study on there, and we get traffic for the keyword raunchy underwear. From an old client called Peachy Cheeks.
Raunchy underwear.
That's not because I keep talking about my magic knickers, is it?
They're not raunchy, though.
Magic knickers. No, they're not raunchy.
No, they're not raunchy. Anyway, right, moving on. So we've talked about Google Analytics, Search Console, how that can help. So now I want to talk about some of the other software things that are out there. There are some incredibly good free ones. There are also some that you have to pay for, but even ones that you have to pay for, most of them you don't have to pay a lot of money for, do you? So Dalley, quickly and succinctly and without boring the pants off everyone, what are some good other platforms that you found for helping people track their analytics and their rankings?
I was banging about Hotjar, don't I? So Hotjar, I'll go with that one.
Yeah, you do.
Hotjar is it's an analytics platform, but it analyzes slightly different data. So it looks at things like heat mapping, click tracking, scroll tracking. Really valuable insights if you want to do kind of user experience testing and conversion rate optimization, which is something that Google Analytics isn't particularly well suited to. And you get two weeks free trial with it as well.
Yeah, so just to convert that to translate that for people, what it will tell you is where people are looking on your website. So it follows where their mouse is going. So if you've got particular areas of your page that people are going to and looking at and engaging with, it will tell you that. It will also tell you if there are areas of your website that people are completely ignoring and that nobody's looking at and that aren't working. So again, if you want to do some of that conversion rate optimization, make sure you're actually converting people once they get to your website. Hotjar is a really, really good tool, and you can, as you say, with that 2 weeks free trial, you can do all the analysis, download all the heat maps, and then cancel the subscription, can't you? Don't tell Hotjar we said that.
Yeah, you don't even have to cancel it. It just it just stops collecting the data. So it doesn't tie you in like some of the other ones.
Any others, Dalley? Any others that you find particularly useful that you think are handy for people?
I think those are my go-to. Obviously, we use SE ranking for monitoring, analysing ranking data, and that pulls data from both analytics and Search Console as well. So that's valuable. Some of the free software like SEMrush, that's got the freemium front end bit of it as well. So I use that quite a lot.
Yeah, I call that SEMrush.
I was just about to say I call that SEMrush. So why I say RFs and you say Ahrefs, and then I say SEMrush and you say SEMrush? Why are some of them allowed to be one word and some of them aren't?
Because SEM is search engine marketing. That's one bit.
Yeah, so I would say that would be the like what she calls it, Rachel, the letters.
Yeah, and what's the bloody word? Not an anagram.
An abbreviation.
No.
No.
Anyway,
Yeah.
it begins with an A. I know what you mean.
We're all intelligent people. Carry on.
Yeah. So yeah, I would have thought that would be like the letters.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, we need to find out. So
yeah.
Right,
Can somebody please tell us? Is it RFs or Ahrefs, and is it SEMrush or SEMrush?
I would recommend SEMrush as well, especially if you are just using it for your own business. I think as an agency tool, I don't love it because it's the free version is, I would say, slightly basic, and you can only get a certain number of websites in. But if you're just doing your own analytics and you want it to look, easy to understand, kind of top level stuff, I think it's a really good tool, and the free version works absolutely fine.
I do use SEMrush if so we have a free audit which we offer to our clients, and we run it through SE ranking to get an SEO crawl out of it. But what I will also do at that free audit is just run the website through SEMrush as well, again because I won't have access to their Google Analytics at that point. And SEMrush will give me just a really quick snapshot of what their traffic has done over the last 2 years. So it is handy for that, as you say, to give you that really top level data. It's quite useful, isn't it?
So we use SE ranking, which we pay for. So like we have the paid version, which I don't think the difference between the free version and the paid version is enormous. I think it's just the quantity of shit that you get. But, and I love it, and I could spend a long time in it, just like interrogating keyword data and stuff. I wouldn't say I trust the data that comes out of it 100%. I think there's a lot of error in there. But I was on it with a friend the other day. We obviously have like a nice time together looking at SE ranking. I was with a colleague, but I was on with Paul. He's not a colleague, and he's not a friend, but he's like a friend and a colleague, a professional friend. I don't know what he is. A colleague. Some Irish cunt that I know. And
he's a supplier. That Irish cunt is a supplier.
He's a supplier. He's a friend.
Nice to him.
He's a contractor. He's a colleague. He's an abomination. He's a shame, a blot upon my history. Anyway, and I was showing it him.
Is this live?
Yeah. I'm gonna make sure he sees it as well. And it was just like it was just over his head. There was too much. He didn't understand like the stuff that to me was quite basic. And he's a techie guy, and it was too SEO-y. So I'm not sure that that's one that I particularly recommend to people.
Again, I think SE ranking is really good if you just, we give, our clients can have access to just their data in SE ranking, can't they? And if all you do is look at where you are ranking, and it gives you a nice graph that tells you how you've changed over time, that bit is fine. And again, I think this goes for all of the platforms and all of the systems. If you are just a website owner of one website, you're a business owner, and you just want to know how yours is doing, all of these platforms, you can use them on just a really surface level, get the basic data that you present you with, and you don't have to drill down. We do a lot of drilling down because we need to for our job. We need to interrogate that data and figure out why something's happening, and that involves going a lot deeper. But most people don't need to do that. So you can just use them on a really surface level, can't you?
I like Moz.
It's interesting what you said about... Sorry.
No, Moz.
It's interesting what you said about SE ranking, because I find it quite basic, actually. There's quite a bit missing from it.
There is a lot missing.
But yeah, we are where we are with it now, aren't we? Because we've been using it for so long that all the data's stored in there. It'd be like starting again.
Well, yeah. So what about Moz then?
Moz, the one thing that I like about Moz is obviously they invented kind of domain authority, or the concept of trying to work out how Google scores your domains, your website, your domain, which is important to help you work out where you're going to rank. What was I going to say? Oh, spam score. I like Moz because of its.
I like the spam score. Yeah, that is
that's
good.
quite useful.
What's the spam score then? Just explain that for the folks at home.
It analyzes your backlink profile and kind of ranks the backlink profile, not just based on the authority that the backlink profile passes back, like an equivalent of PageRank, but ranks it based on whether it's a kind of quality website or whether it's a dodgy website.
Yeah. Okay.
The higher your spam score, the dodgier your backlink profile is.
Yeah.
So the backlink profile is the websites that are linking to your website.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do something about it. So if you go on if you run Moz through your website and you've got a high spam score, that you can do something about that, and you probably should, because you don't want shit pointing back to your site.
Yeah, it eventually will start to penalise you, and if ranking well is one of the things that is high on your priority list, then you do not want a spammy backlink. That's really dodgy. We don't want any spammy backlinks around here. Okay, so we've done quite a few of them. And what about RFs? What about Majestic? What about these other ones? I mean, these are mostly paid now, aren't they? We're getting into the realms of paid. What about Screaming Frog, Hannah? You love a bit of Screaming Frog, don't you?
I do love Screaming Frog, but it's not analytical. It just kind of tells you what your site has been optimized for. So if you want to know, if you've got an SEO agency that's saying, I've optimized your site, and you want to know either how well they've done it or what keywords they've used, run it through Screaming Frog. You download it onto your desktop, but it's the free version, gives you up to 500 URLs. And then just run it through, and it gives you a beautiful, enormous spreadsheet that you can interrogate till your heart's content, and you can go as deep as you want, and you can go as shallow as you want. So yeah, I'm a fan of Screaming Frog, but it's not particularly analytical, is it?
Yeah, there's also one called Seo Quake, which I have. Again, you download this to your desktop. It's in your browser, and it just gives you, when you first land on a website, it will tell you what's the domain authority, what's the backlinks. Again, really top level stuff, but it just gives you a really quick snapshot. And that Seo Quake is free as well. So again, there is so much out there actually, and this is before you even start paying for anything. You can get so much data. I just very quickly, and I would like a really quick answer here because time is marching away with us. What is domain authority? Because domain authority is on its way out. SE ranking that we use is now using its own ranking system, which is domain trust. So if you've had a report from us in the last kind of 2 months or month, actually, you will know that domain authority has now become domain trust. What is that, and how has it changed, and what does that mean?
So in a kind of really basic version, domain authority is a made up metric that Moz made up that gives you an indication of how much Google likes and trusts your website. So if you have an old domain, so it's been up for a long time, and it's got loads of really good backlinks from really trustworthy websites, and your spam score's really low and stuff, then your domain authority will be higher, because it will be indicating that it's a trustworthy site that's not full of shit. And if your domain authority is very low, then it indicates that either your domain is really new, so domains start off with a domain authority. So your domain is your name of your website, www. That's your domain. So a website that's really young will have a really low domain authority. If it's not got any backlinks, then it's indicating that nobody likes your content because no one's using it as a reference. Or if it's got loads of spam on it, really shit backlinks, then it indicates that your website might be shit as well. So that's what your domain authority is. It's a metric that you include in your thinking, but you don't live and die by it.
Yeah, and so domain trust has now, domain trust has taken over in SE ranking because domain authority is probably on its way out. And again, it is a completely made up
Domain authority is not on its way out, Rachel. They're just updating it.
Well, all right, yeah, okay.
They're about to relaunch a new one, a new domain authority.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's it, isn't it? And the thing is, RFs has its own scoring system. You know, none of these ways of measuring are Google's, and none of them, you know, they don't have one. So all of these different systems have their own way of measuring, and so you know they are more or less made up, but they're just there to give you an indication. And again, it's another thing, isn't it, that people, business owners and stuff get het up about, and they're like, oh, we need to get our domain authority up or our domain trust up, whatever. And you do, but again, you need to take it in the round. And when I'm doing competitor analysis for websites, you can see, you know, sometimes you will have a website with a domain authority of 20 ranking number 1, and underneath it is a website with a domain authority of 68. So it's not all, it doesn't always follow that the higher the domain authority, the better you will rank. It's again just one of the indicators.
Yeah, it's a rough rule of thumb, isn't it?
Yeah.
Most people at the moment think that domain rating from Ahrefs is the closest thing.
Yeah.
But we wait to see what the new domain authority looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing as well that domain authority indicates is like your rank, how highly you'll rank, but also how stable that ranking will be. So you can see in some, and I'm going to hit the it depends button. So you can see when you do some analysis that websites that have got a lower domain authority, they might rank higher than the one with a higher domain authority for a snapshot, but you'll see a lot of fluctuations in their rankings, whereas kind of rule of thumb is that a site with a higher domain authority will maintain its rankings better. It'll see less fluctuations, but again, it depends.
Again, Rita, and this is the thing, we've seen examples. Everything that we're saying here, we've seen examples of the absolute opposite happening. So you know, you've got to take everything with a pinch of salt. That's why
we got a bit distracted. Have we started going on to?
Yeah, we're massively distracted. Pull us back,
massively off on a tangent.
I'm about to bring it back. I'm bringing it back. Okay, so where should small business owners? We have already said, you know, get Google Analytics, get Google Search Console, but where do business owners, normal business owners, not the weird business owners, where do the normal business owners start on getting themselves set up on this system? So just really basic here. People think it's really complicated to get Google Analytics set up, and it's not, is it? How easy is it?
Well, I fucked it up yesterday, so not that easy.
Okay, well, but to excuse that, they have recently just changed, haven't they, which we're not going to go into today because we don't want to, you know, muddy the waters. So it's not your fault. They have recently changed how you do it.
I've just had a baby. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, there we go.
It depends on it's going to depend on the website that you're building. If you're building a static website, then it's just a case of copying the code that they give you into the right place in the website. If you're building through a builder, some of them have a space where you just insert the not even the code, just the Google Analytics account number, the UA number, which is changing for the next lot. So it should be really simple. Just set up the account, copy the code, or copy the UA number.
And when we say set up the account, what you need to do is you need to have a Google email, a Google account. So whatever Google account you use to register your Google My Business card, and everybody should have a Google My Business card, and we'll be doing a session on that soon. But whatever account you've used for that, basically just be logged in. Go to your browser, type in Google Analytics, and follow the setup procedure. It is that easy. It will then give you a code. You then take that to your website if you know what you're doing. If you don't, forward it to the person that built your website or your website. Call us. They will be able to put the tracking code on for you, and it's literally that simple. In terms of setting up Google Search Console, again, Google Search Console. Google, the words Search Console, press enter, follow the setup, and you literally you take your URL, you put it into a box, and it will set it. It will ask you to link it. You have to have Google Analytics set up first in order to validate it. That's the easiest way of validating it. But there are other ways. It's not tricky. It's not tricky, and if you get stuck, there are people who will be able to help you. It's really easy. It should take you no more than 15 minutes, basically, to get them both set up.
And if you do want, to stay away from using Google's kind of analytics software, because lots of people do, because they don't like they don't agree with sharing all that data with Google. You should still be setting up Search Console.
Yeah.
If anything, Search Console really should be the first thing that's set up.
Yes, it should be. It should be. Liz has put #AskDalley.
Ask Dalley.
Yeah, 90% of what we ask Dalley to do is basically set up this Google Analytics code. In fact, I think the only jobs I ever give him are, can you set this up for me? Can you set this up for me? So yes, if you are stuck, #AskDalley, and he will do it for you. And then, all of the other ones, it's a case of suck it and see, isn't it? Try them, because as we've already said, each of us, we work in the same company, we have more or less the same jobs, and each of us have our own preferred system that we use. So it is going to be a little bit of a case of try them all. Try Moz, Screaming Frog, RFs, SEMrush, SE Ranking, Seo Quake. If you Google best SEO tools to use, there will be a big list. Just get the free trials. All of them will offer you a free trial, and try them out and see which one gives you the kind of data that works best for how you run your business and how you run your brain, essentially.
Yeah, definitely. But don't not do it, because I don't know how you would make decisions about the growth of your business without knowing what's happening. And online, even if you don't sell anything online, it's still incredibly useful. Even if you don't want people to come and use your inquire online or buy anything online, it's still incredibly useful to know what your engagement is like, what your rankings are like, what your brand awareness is, how your social media is performing, yada yada. Like I don't know how you would not.
Well, it's exactly as you said at the beginning, isn't it? You wouldn't have a shop front, you wouldn't have an actual business premises and not know how many people you get through the door, how many people phone up, how many people buy you, how much stock you've got in. You just wouldn't run a business like that. So,
it's not insane, isn't it? If you don't measure it, you can't manage it, and that's what it enables you to do.
Absolutely that, yeah. And at the very least, you should know how many people are visiting your website, and that's that's the absolute basics, isn't it? So yeah, do that. Okay, penultimate questions. Any apps, books, resources, anywhere people can go to get a bit more help on any of this, Hannah?
Yeah, loads. Google it.
Google it. Do you know what, actually, joking aside, Google are really good at teaching you how to do this. So you will have to sit there, wade through quite a lot of stuff, but they do teach you how to use every little bit of analytics. It's in their interest that you do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dalley, anything?
I would say Hotjar at this point. No, I think I've already said Hotjar.
Already said Hotjar. You can say it again if you want.
I love Hotjar.
So last Christmas, Dalley wore his Moz t-shirt because he was so proud that he'd managed to get to the level of Moz where you get a t-shirt. Moz has a point.
That wasn't last Christmas.
Is it now? Is that the Christmas before? Well, anyway, I think what we're going to have
quite a while ago now.
What we're going to have to get him now is a Hotjar t-shirt. Do you remember in the 90s when we had those t-shirts that got warm where you had your sweat patches? Maybe that Hotjar should invent a t-shirt that gets warm depending on where people are looking. Like obviously for women it would just be they'd have like bright red breasts. But anyway, I'm getting off subject.
What are you talking about?
I haven't even had any beer either.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
You're just getting in.
Yes.
Anyway, tips, apps, resources from me. Growtraffic is running a Google Analytics course. if you've done our better blogging course or our social media course, you will know that we look at everything from an SEO and an algorithmic point of view. So the course is 2 hours, it's run via Zoom, it's next Wednesday the 18th of November between 2 and 4. It costs just £50 plus VAT to come and do it. And we are going to look at Google Analytics, Google Search Console, all of these other systems that we've spoken about today, and show you like real detail. This is how you use them, this is how you set them up. So if you have further questions, please come and do that course. Or, as Liz has put, #AskDalley. Yeah, we are more than happy to help anybody with their Google Analytics queries, or if you want some bespoke training, come and talk to us. So, conclusion. Hannah, what would be your one top tip to business owners that are struggling with Google Analytics and don't know where to start? What would be your top tip?
Come on the analytics course, 100%. It'll be a really good introduction for people, and yeah, it'd be great. Join us there.
Dalley, top tip.
Don't fall into the trap of concentrating on what your audience is doing. Concentrate on what the different channels are doing and breaking things out, making it manageable.
Okay.
So break your audience out into where they're coming from, rather than looking at them as a whole.
Yeah, stop looking at everything from a top level, because it won't give you. You'll just make the wrong conclusions.
Okay, and mine would be, set up Search Console and Google Analytics. They are both free. They give you a wealth of data. You cannot break them. So you just go in, have a play, have a mess around with things, familiarize yourself with it. Don't be afraid of it. It's just data, and you will start to figure out what's going on. All right,
you say you can't break them, but for the last week and a half, I've been fixing a client that accidentally broke their analytics and stopped tracking anything for all that time.
They did do that, but they did that because they were faffing around with the code and the website and updating it. It was techie people that broke it, wasn't it? Your average business owner is not going to break Google Analytics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let that be a challenge to you all.
It's a challenge, isn't it?
Have fun. Right, that's it. Thank you very much, guys. We'll be back next Friday. I think we might be talking about e-commerce next Friday, aren't we? It's been brewing for a while, but we'll let you know either way. So thank you. We continue to monitor the chat box. If you are watching it, not live, later on, and you have a question, please do put it in. We will still get back to you, or email info@growtraffic.co.uk, and we will answer all of your questions. That's it. We're all off to go and drink beer now.
Do I really have a Neanderthal face when I get this close to the screen?
Yeah, you've always had a Neanderthal forehead, yeah.
Yeah, it's been going on.
There we go.
Anyway.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.